You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. We were on forced holiday for 2 weeks and we're meeting you in this brand new year. So I would like to wish our viewers a very happy new year and may you have a wonderful 12 months, and let's see what happens politically, economically as well as socially here in Sri Lanka. Now, 2018 was quite an eventful year. We saw many decisions being taken, decisions were reversed. Economically, we were not in a sound position. If I say that 2018 was inconclusive, I may be correct. 2019, 7 days into it, we've seen new governors being appointed. The next 12 months, what's going to happen? Are we on the right path? Where do we stand today? To discuss all this and more, we've invited 3 guests to our studios who are regulars on the show. Let me very quickly introduce them to you. Joining us tonight on the show is Mr. Kesarala Gunasekara, member of the Devil Mountain Municipal Council representing the United People's Freedom Alliance. Also joining us this evening on the show is the very vocal Mr. Rusiripala Tendakon, member of the Colombo Municipal Council representing the UPFA. Also joining us tonight on the show is Shamindra Ferdinando, editor of the Island newspaper. Nice to have you on board as well. News editor of the Island newspaper. Thank you very much, Shamindra. I always make a mistake with that. It beats me why. Thank you very much for joining us tonight on the show as well. So let's start off tonight's show with Mr. Rusiripala Tendakon, a member of the Colombo Municipal Council representing the United People's Freedom Alliance. Mr. Tendakon, let's before revisiting what we are to speak about the year 2019, where do we stand today and what next steps must we take as a nation? Let's look at 2018. As an individual, you've been an activist, you've been a trade union activist, you've been very vociferous on many issues, and then you were appointed as a councillor, which was quite an eventful year for you as well as an individual, February 10th, following the local government polls. Looking at all this, what is your take as far as the year 2018 was concerned?
2018 was a very unusually eventful year. The culmination was towards the end of the year, starting from October, with what happened in the parliament. I think if I start with that, that was the culmination of all the most eventful thing that we witnessed was what happened and what transpired associated with the parliament. So I think we had the experience of the constitution being questioned, the constitution being reviewed, the constitution being discussed by very many at different times, and that was a very important event with regard to to review what happened during the constitutional revisions and the amendments. Now, I think it reminds us the constitution of this country, which was amended under the 19th Amendment, became the hot topic subject that was discussed by all the people after the appointment of the Prime Minister, after the removal of a Prime Minister and prorogation of the Parliament, and also the dissolution of the Parliament. Now, these were the events that led to the very serious state of affairs that we witnessed in the Parliament, outside the Parliament, in the judiciary, and even in the international scenario. You know, there were a lot of interventions to the internal affairs of a country by the international, by the internationals.
But when you say interventions, Mr. Nakon, what do you mean by that? Interventions from the international community, that's what you said.
It was
what
obvious,
do you mean by that?
When something was happening in the Parliament Sri Lanka, we were informed that they are going to stop the GSP Plus. They were going to intervene with our fish exports to the European community. Then the IMF wanted to review the pending tranches to be released to the country. which had been already released. 4 tranches have been released. The 5th was waiting.
It seems like we are doing this cherry-picking business every single time, because when the international community intervened in 2015 presidential elections as well as the parliamentary polls, the international community was well and good. Then suddenly, when things don't work out the way that the government expects things to work out, then the international community is bent. Why is this cherry-picking business?
I don't think there is a change. Even in 2015, the interventions of the internationals were looked at with certain suspicions and with certain speculations, because there were certain unseen things, interests and agendas, which we thought was going beyond our requirements.
So you mean to say the 2015 presidential election was a result of the 2015 presidential election is because of the international community?
There was an influence, terrible influence on that. There was an influence. I don't say it is good or bad, but what I say is the international was interested in the affairs of this country at that time. And that became obvious when the change took place in October 2018, when these things happened, how they reacted suddenly. It was an eruption-like thing. For me, looking at it from outside, I thought, why should they be so interested in these affairs? And the quarters, the IMF, which has no political...
Why shouldn't they be concerned? Let's take a look at China for an example. China is making a very big investment in Sri Lanka, so they are concerned about the country. Let's take a look at the GSP Plus concessions. All the European countries work on a human rights-based policy, so they are interested about it.
Yeah.
The fish exports to the European Union is also based on principles that are adopted, so it is important to them, isn't it, Mr. Tennakoon?
It is indeed, but I fail to understand as to why they can categorize a change of heads and change of faces in this country as a human right violation.
Anyway, we'll speak more about it as we continue tonight's show. I want to move my attention now to Shamindra Ferdinando, news editor of the Island newspaper. Shamindra, let's talk about the present with you. Where do we stand today? Just a couple of days ago, we saw the appointment of new governors. We saw Shanta Bandara, who was a defeated candidate, coming into the forefront once again in place of Mr. Hizbullah from the UPFA list. So you're looking at certain transformations that are taking place. We see talk about Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga, one of the patrons of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, trying to split the Sri Lanka Freedom Party as well. You see the leadership council that was appointed by the UNP not taking really drastic decisions about making any changes within the UNP itself as well. Mahinda Rajapaksa's Pojana Peramuna seems to be silent. You saw Namal Rajapaksa last year very eloquently putting on Twitter, I have obtained my membership from the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramuna, but suddenly a quick reversal on that as well. So all these things have happened. The present, where do we stand today?
Shamir, first of all, I want to refer to what Mr. Tennakoon said. The international intervention by the Western nations in 2015 was on behalf of the then common candidate Maithripala Sirisena. Now the situation has changed, right? So we must realize.
You may say that now they're supporting who?
Different. Yes, the people do not realize that in 2015, Western powers wanted a change of government in Sri Lanka. They wanted President Mahinda Rajapaksa out. So they brought in a system, they brought all these political parties together, the TNA, the UNP, the JVP and the SLMC together and helped Mr. Sirisena win the presidency.
I still try to figure out, Shamindra, you always come on the show and say about this notion about the international community, but at the end of the day, it's the people who went and voted and they wanted to change, isn't it?
Yeah, I must also tell you that the amount of funds pumped by the international community, the US State Secretary has has revealed that they spent $585 million in 3 countries, Nigeria, Burma and Sri Lanka. So if we received 1/3 of that amount, just imagine the amount spent in Sri Lanka. It's a huge sum, because a few months back, the media was making a huge...
but the population in these 3 countries
some people,
Sri Lanka has a very insignificant number compared to Nigeria and Burma.
We
cannot make a proper comparison.
Shamir, we are talking about more than $100 million. 100 million. Now, there was a huge media campaign when they accused the former government, Rajapaksa's government, of receiving 7.6 million. They have your television station, our media, the print and electronic radios, all reported. But when we point out that somebody else had spent much more, over 100 million. So, having said that, I must tell you, the entire country is in turmoil, right? Just by making appointments and shifting people here and there, they are not going to make any difference, because all the political parties are in extremely difficult situations. Take this government. Now, having somehow secured power, they cannot agree on the number of cabinet ministers in this country, right? Now, according to Mr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, the number 30 includes the president and the prime minister. According to JC Valiamuna, PC, it's 30 plus 1, 31. And according to Dr. Jayapathi Vikramatne, who played a huge role in bringing the 19th Amendment, is 30 plus 2, right? These are parliament. They cannot agree on the number of cabinet ministers in terms of the 19th Amendment. But
fortunately, we have less than 30 now.
We are happy. I think we don't need 30 also, right? Because, see, in Parliament, we have over 200 people. The provincial council is nearly 500 people. And the local government system, we have 2 councillors here. Over 8,000. Just utter waste of public money.
Shavindra, before I move to Mr. Gunasekara, what is the biggest mistake that the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramuna did in the year 2018?
For me, I believe they should not have accepted the invitation to, President, the former President Kurunegala district parliamentarian, Mahinda Rajapaksa, should not have accepted premiership under any circumstances. It was a huge mistake.
Where does all this leave the Sri Lanka Pojana Peramuna, led by the Kurunegala district parliamentarian Mahinda Rajapaksa, stand at the moment?
I believe if they call elections, SLPP will definitely win.
You still believe so?
Definitely. I have no doubt.
Thank you very much, Shavindra. I now bring my attention to Mr. Kesara Gunasekara, a member of the Devali Mountain Municipal Council, representing the UPFA. Mr. Gunasekara, I spoke about the past and we spoke about the present. Let's talk a little bit about the future now, the next 12 months. Shavindra says there is political turmoil. Mr. Rusiripala Tennakoon says there is more things to do. There is more improvement that Sri Lanka should undergo in the next few years, because the past has definitely been bleak for us. So, in your opinion, as an individual and also as a politician who has been in Parliament as well, the next 12 months, what must the government really take note of?
You mean the present government?
The present government. The present government, Prime Minister this time is Ranil Wickremesinghe, and you have President Maithripala Sirisena as the President of the country. The present government.
Well, I think everybody needs to understand that we need an agenda for the country. We have agendas for parties, we have agendas for politicians, leaders, everything, but we don't have an agenda for the country. That is number one. And this decision by the Supreme Court is not to install the Prime Minister. It's very clear. It is to say that the decision of the President in dissolving Parliament was against the Constitution. I hope they get that message very clearly, because if you remember, some of the people who came out after the dissolution of Parliament in various places held up boards to say, this is not for so and so. we are not for so and so. Very clearly, yeah. Why did they say that? And why? How come that was also tolerated? Why? Because the majority was of that view. So they need to understand that they have to change their policies if they want to continue to be in power. If they don't, they are in serious trouble.
Mr. Gunasekara, last year when the president dissolved parliament, dissolved the cabinet and appointed a new cabinet, the United National Party made a huge cry about not being able to table the budget, and they said that they're prepared, they're well prepared, they just want to table the budget, so please reconvene parliament and let the UNP show their majority. However, now Minister of Mass Media, Mangala Samaravira, who is the Minister of Finance also, is saying that he needs time until the 5th of March to present the budget. I'm trying to figure out, is the UNP really serious? They had a plan or they did not have a plan?
No, they would have had their budget all right. But no sooner it gets delayed, then everything changes. You must understand.
But they got hold of the parliament 2.5 weeks prior to the end of the year. So the budget proposals are implemented starting from the 1st of January, apart from tax revisions that are brought forward, isn't it?
Yeah, but the process takes much more longer time, Shami. You have to start from A. It's not something that you come back all of a sudden and say, okay, we are bringing the budget. You can't do that. It's a process. So it takes time. It takes at least 2 months. It's not that easy.
So you mean to say
that is the reason.
That 15 days prior, the parliament was dissolved before the budget first reading was to come into place?
No sooner you dissolve, everything changes.
So you mean to say that 5th of March is a reasonable time frame for the UNP government to bring in a budget?
I would say before end February, it's not that easy. It takes time because you need to debate it in parliament as well. And whatever that they printed, if they had printed, I don't know. Those things cannot be used. So you have to go in for a reprint, back again. Everything has to be redone.
I just wish, Mr. Gunasekara, that the government works like the private sector. You give them a target and within a few days, within a few weeks, they act together and then present it to the main boards of respective companies.
You can provide it everybody,
But the government takes time, unfortunately, isn't it? It's quite unfortunate.
No, the question is it's a series of actions which will ultimately bring a budget before parliament. It's a series of actions. Several departments, several agencies involved in it. It's not like a private company. Yeah? There are so many agencies involved.
But do you think, we've had several speakers on this very show saying that it's important to have a appraiser for the parliamentarians as well as cabinet ministers on what they've done and review their work and give them targets. You think that's important?
That's very important.
And who should do the appraisals?
It's the speaker's role. He has to understand that he's answerable. He's head.
But Mr. Gunasekara, they just damaged property in the parliament.
Why didn't they take action? They should take action.
But no action has been taken yet. As we speak,
you need to take action.
Those who made those mistakes are going scot-free.
You got to understand that there are certain members of parliament whose role is that. You can't expect anything else. I don't want to mention names. It's not correct for me to mention names. But I can give you 5-6 names. Those people, they are only capable of doing damage. You can't expect anything else from them.
Tell me the 5-6 names.
They'll continue to do that.
Tell me the 5-6 names. You said that you can mention 5-6
It's not correct. It's not correct. It's not ethical for me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gunasekara.
But anybody's guess. It's anybody's guess.
Member of the
I'm sure you know it.
Municipal Council, United People's Freedom Alliance. I now open the floor for questions. On to my immediate left is Nadeem Majid. On to my far left is Deshan Gonaval. So let's start off with Deshan.
Thank you, Shamir. I want to direct my first question to Mr. Kesaralal Gunasekara. You're a member of council and you're also a member of the UPFA. Given the goings on in the political scenario, in the political scene over the last year, and within your own party and your own alliance, even over the last few days, do you see a sustainable future for the United People's Freedom Alliance or the SLFP as an individual party?
Definitely, I see a future, but it all depends on what policies are being pursued by the leaders. It's very essential. You cannot do certain things which has happened over the last couple of days or so, and then expect SLP to merge and come at the top. I don't think that is possible. So that is something that everybody in the SLP and the UPFA would have to sit down and decide, look here, what is going to be our future.
Do you think it's a realistic proposition for the SLFP in particular to go an election alone?
Well, there is a school of thought that the Podujana Peramuna should contest separately and the SLFP needs to contest separately. As to whether that is a good move, it's difficult to state now. But that there is a school of thought. And at the same time, there is a school of thought to say that both parties must merge and then join hands and contest on one platform, come on one platform. As to whether that will happen, I don't know. But that is another school of thought.
Mr. Gunasekara, you were previously opposed to that kind of a merging between the SLFP and SLPP ahead of the local government elections. Have you changed your position now, or are you still thinking that that either of these schools of thought could be correct?
No, the question is, it all depends on how people are going to vote. That's number one. My policy is that the SLPP, the creation of the SLPP was to destroy SLFP. Yeah? It's very clear. That's the very reason why the president, the former president, no sooner parliament was dissolved, the following day at 8:30 in the morning, he went and took membership of the Podujana Peramuna. Why did he do that? I mean, he's a person who has held all those portfolios thanks to the SLFP. But what does he do?
Shamindra, you said that when Shamir asked the question, you said that if an election was called, even now, that the Podujana Peramuna is the clear front runner, that they would emerge victorious. Do you feel that such a victory is possible only if they ally with the SLFP, or that the SLPP is capable of gaining such a victory by themselves?
I believe the SLPP can win the election on its own. It does not need any support. But the SLFP certainly requires the support of the SLPP.
Mr. Tennakoon, you're an SLFP councillor or UPFA councillor, Colombo Municipal Council. What is your stance on this sort of marriage between the proposed marriage between the SLFP and SLPP?
I think this is just a getting together of a separated, divorced two same party, you know. This is not a case where two new parties are coming together or something. They were together, no, they were in one party.
Mr. Tennakoon,
and they separated on under certain conditions, certain situations. So they can very well come back. And the SLFP has seen worse situations before. I mean, if you know the history of SLFP, the party headquarters were taken over by a group of the same party. Anura and Maitri group. I don't know whether you were born at that time. I was a member of the executive committee at that time. The party headquarters was locked up. We had to break open the padlocks by force and go in. So we have seen these changes in the SLFP. For people who have not seen, well, everything looks, you know, very strange what is happening. I mean, they are really estranged by those.
Well, you look at the results of the local government.
I just want to add something. You know, although I pointed out that the SLPP can definitely win the next election, I must tell you, all the major political parties are corrupt, right? So
Corrupt to the core.
Corrupt to the core. Now see, the recent revelation that the former president's astrologer, Abhay Gunawardena, received the car that the government spent 8.2 million rupees to buy him a car. It's a crime, no? So what is the difference between the former government giving Sumanadas Abhay Gunawardena a car and Venerable Damaramila receiving 95,000 rupee allowance every month since 2006 in April until now. So you must realize the entire system is corrupt. all these political parties are corrupt, and the recent appointments made by political parties. See, there are 10 defeated candidates in this parliament. People who had been rejected by the people of this country. Now, again today,
Mr.
another
Ferdinand,
person has been
there's
appointed.
also one candidate who didn't contest from the United National Front, also sitting as a member of the United National Front in Parliament as well.
That is General Fonseca.
Yes.
Yes. He contested and he lost, and the UMP accommodated him. So, all the major political parties, now even the JVP promised the electorate that Mr. Mayadunne, a very honest person, Mr. Sarath Mayadunne and Krishmal Parnasurya would be given, but at the end of the day, they accommodated 2 defeated candidates. So, people of this country must know that they must not take these politicians seriously, right? See, this Yahapalana government of President Sirisena and Prime Minister Mr. Wickremesinghe, one of the main promises was the Right to Information Act. Now today, the President's office refuses to abide by a ruling given by the Right to Information Commission, right?
So I just want to get to the point that Mr. Tendikon raised about breaking the padlocks of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party headquarters in Dali Road. I work just opposite the Sri Lanka Freedom Party office, Mr. Tendikon, and the last 2 weeks of the year, what I saw was quite a surprising move. I saw a lot of security guards at the Sri Lanka Freedom Party headquarters. Is that because of something of this nature may have happened?
History
again?
repeats, in different forms. It may be a repetition of what we have seen earlier, but I don't know. But there is a lot of conjecture that, there is going to be, some interferences and some kind of unwanted involvements inside the
Mr.
party.
Tendikon,
That is very much conjectured, so it is.
Mr. Tendikon, do you think that the President is having a stronghold of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party or even the United People's Freedom Alliance as we speak right now?
No, he has. Indeed, he has. That is why all these changes are taking place.
Then why was it that President Maithripala Sirisena at the Sri Lanka Freedom Party meetings articulates that it's important to join hands with the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna? And then you have the SLFP General Secretary, Dayasri Jayasekara, making a public statement saying that the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna can say whatever they want, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the UPFA that's going to lead the election towards victory. So he seems to not think that Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna will have a role to play at future elections within the Sri Lanka Freedom Party system. Why is it there are mixed signals being sent? There's green, there's amber, there's red, and you start wondering, what's happening?
No, in a broader sense, what the president, there is hardly any difference between what the president said and what Mr. Dayasiri said, as a general secretary. It is the way how we look at it. Now, president made the statement that there should be a unity of the party. That is, he is speaking on behalf of the SLFP and to make the SLFP as strong as possible in his own way. So one definite thing is that, to take back the people who have gone away from the party. So that is a fact. Then what Dayasiri has said is, well, if the SLPP wants to go their own way, that is left to them. But then if there is any polarization of coming together, that will have to happen through the UPFA. So that's a fact.
Mr. Tendikon, I also want to bring to your attention now the President, His Excellency the President, over the last three years or so, he brought up in quite a lot of forums, in very strong terms as well, about how critical he was about the Podujana Peramuna faction that was sitting in the SLFP as well. Now the thing is, isn't it that the President might have felt that he has no survival if he continues to go with the SLFP? Because don't forget, even the group of 16, after they broke off from the SLFP and they rescinded their portfolios, they also went and sat with the Podujana Peramuna. Even after the purported dissolution of Parliament, you saw wholesale senior SLFP members coming and taking membership of the Podujana Peramuna. Now, Do you not think that the president took one risk, it backfired, took another risk, it backfired, took another risk, that also backfired, and he finally had to resort to something to save face?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think at all it is correct, because it's a correct view, because the president took certain views about the SLPP as people who have broken away from this main party and weakened his own party. The way he looks at it is very critical. He doesn't like it, and it should not be encouraged. That's a fact. Even if I am there, I would say, well, the people who break away are no good. But if you are back in the fold again, following the same policy and working together as you worked before for several years, for decades. SLFP is a now nearly 60-year-old party. 60 years, more than 60 years. They have been working together. Who are these people who have broken away? Or whether they go and sit there or whether they come and sit here, they were together for some time. These are differences. Now in the UNP, you have people, they say it is better if we went, some people say, if we took the money that was offered by SP Dissanayake, it could have been much better. So these are public statements made by MPs, aspiring to become cabinet ministers, jokers.
Mr. Ferdinando, I want to ask you a question now.
This is the politics.
Over the last few months, Mr. Ferdinando, especially from the 26th of October, the UNP-led group in Parliament, the majority in Parliament, I would say, constantly spoke about democracy. They spoke about how important it is that we respect parliamentary tradition, that we respect democratic norms. But the thing is, that fight for democracy, or what was veiled as a fight for democracy, today when you see these people fighting over a thing like a cabinet portfolio, was this really a fight for democracy? Or was this a fight to save their positions?
The positions, you must realize the whole discussion should take place against the backdrop of the central bank scams, right? Now, when you talk about the SLPP, you must know, Rushiripala, that the SLP came up. It was so strong because the government allowed the UMP to rob the central bank. It happened in 2015, then the president dissolved the parliament in 2015 June, then the second scam happened in 2016 March, and he waited till January 2017 to appoint a presidential commission, right? That is why the SLPP did so well in February 2018 local government elections. The SLP was wiped out. The SLP polled just 4%. UPFA altogether polled 14%, right? It was a huge setback suffered by the SLP. People must realize the SLP was wiped out. Now see, you take the parliamentary group.
Is it President Maithripala Sirisena who has to be responsible for the wiping out?
The president is also responsible because by dissolving the parliament in June 2015, he allowed the party that perpetrated the first bond scam to do it again in 2016 March. Right? So the president is responsible, and the president is member of the cabinet. Right? Now see, now today's situation, you take the parliament, the president holds the defense portfolio and several other portfolios. But now, if president wants to bring an amendment or a bill to the parliament, who is going to present that bill or the amendment in parliament? Because there's not a single SLP minister in parliament. Now he has a huge fight with the UMP. The UMP will not cooperate, right? Now there was an amendment, very critically important amendment the president wanted to bring into the parliament. For the past 6-7 months, the UMP stopped, right? On October 12th, 2018, all political parties got together, including the joint opposition, the SLPP. They deferred that vote because by doing so they prevented the bribery commission inquiring into the central bank bond scam. So,
Mr. Gunasekara, I'll get back to you in a minute, Shamindra, about this whole scenario about the central bank bond controversy, so on and so forth. But I want to take my attention to Mr. Gunasekara. Mr. Gunasekara, Shamindra says, if there is an election now, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna is going to emerge victorious. Do you think otherwise? Right after this whole fiasco or turmoil or whatever you name it happened in Sri Lanka, the UNP became very strong once again, isn't it?
Correct.
So, given these circumstances, many thought, at least people in Colombo thought, that the UNP is gaining ground, and if there was an election now, it's going to be somewhat difficult for Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna or even the Sri Lanka Freedom Party to come out right on top, as we saw in the 1977 elections. So, do you think that change should happen within the United National Party structure? Because there was talk about Sajith Premadasa coming into the forefront, there was talk about Navin Dissanayake coming to the forefront. Now all these things have died down. Now the attention is completely focused once again on Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and the royalist, or you can even say the loyalist, surrounding him, taking top positions within the government ranks itself. So is this the future that we're going to see within the UNP? Ranil Wickremesinghe as the leader, being the presidential candidate of the United National Party in the next few months or the next year?
It appears so.
Is
that will be the mistake of the UNP as well.
Is that favorable for the UNP?
No, it's not favorable.
So do you think that change should happen now if the UNP has to become...
If the change takes place, then what
future?
Shamindra said will not happen. If the change takes place, what Shamindra said will not happen, definitely.
So you're going to say that if Sajith Premadasa or Navin Dissanayake or a young leader within the UNP comes to the forefront, things are going to be difficult for the opposition parties?
It will be, no? It's clear. Because don't forget that the SLPP was right at the top. They dropped ground very drastically over the couple of weeks.
So looking at the winners and losers of this game, it seems that Ranil Wickremesinghe seems to be the winner in this whole scenario, because he has always promised for a leadership council to propose amendments to the working committee of the United National Party. It never happened after the 10th of February. Only a committee was appointed. Then came another time where the President openly said that he proposed that Kauru Jayasuriya or Sajith Premadasa take over the premiership and lead the UNP so he could work closely with them. And there was talk about someone else coming to the top, but that didn't take place either. Seems like Ranil Wickremesinghe is the master of this entire game, isn't it?
It appears so. It appears so. But he has to understand, if he reads things properly, he'll have to understand next election is going to be presidential, not parliamentary. It will be presidential. And if they don't take the correct decision, they stand to lose.
They will stand to lose. You mean to say the UNP?
It's very clear.
There is no future for the UNP with Ranil Wickremesinghe as the leader.
Yeah, I still feel all parties need to understand that their leadership needs to change. All parties. The leadership needs to change. We need some new people.
Let's talk about the UNP. Are you trying to say that there is no future for the UNP if Ranil Wickremesinghe leads the party?
If Ranil Wickremesinghe leads the party at the presidential election, there is a problem.
What's the problem?
They are not going to get the vote of the floating vote.
They will lose. In other words, they will lose.
They will not get the floating vote.
Okay.
It's not going to be that easy.
Mr. Gunasekara, you also mentioned that you feel that the Podujana Peramuna might not do as well as Mr. Ferdinando expects them to do. If there's
a change,
that's what I'm getting to. If there is a change, if either Mr. Navin Dissanayake or Mr. Sajith Premadasa comes and takes the mantle of leadership, will we see you still as part of the UPFA even if that change happens?
You're asking.
That's a good question.
You're asking a very, very difficult question for me to answer. You've got to understand that as far as I'm concerned, I'm a member of the SLP. And I would want to support an organization or a party which will do something for this country. What is essential is the country, not the party.
Anyway,
it's very important.
We need to go for a short commercial break now. Then when we come back, we'll discuss more about the future of our resplendent nation, Sri Lanka. All this and more of this short commercial break. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. We will be right back.